Oops. Get back here. Okay. Make sure it's doing what I want it to. Maybe. Okay, sweet, it's working. For those of you in the future, this is just going to be a live Q&A. I had a couple questions. I figured, people pop in, have some questions. I can answer them. Other than that, I'm just going to go along, share some pictures, kind of go through the whole experience. This may be a longer video, but you can jump around. Nothing super formal. And as well, I'll tell some stories just for my time there that may be interesting or stuff that comes up. Both as a firefighter being down there and just the whole going to Antarctica, the experience, and all that kind of stuff. Not just firefighting, but just being down there in general. So with that being said, I'm just gonna jump right into it. Going to Antarctica is pretty interesting. So you apply, you get the job, you do the background check, go through the hiring, all the stuff that you'd expect. Hiring process, medical background. I had to go to Florida for an airport fire refresher because I already had the class. But the day goes to ship out. You leave your home, you go to New Zealand. You're down there for 3 days is the goal, but weather depending, you may be stuck there until the weather clears up. We have a couple last minute trainings. You get your gear issued at the Christchurch gear issue area. You get your big red coat, your snow boots, your pants, all the stuff. So the day you ship out, you get dressed in all your cold weather gear. So in this picture, you have people, Americans in their big red coats. You got some New Zealanders going down in their orange coats. And once you've gone, you're allowed to, if you want, pick and choose what gear you bring down. First year, you have to take their issued stuff. Subsequent years, you can pack your own stuff, wear your own coat, bring your own boots, that kind of thing. So you load up on the bus, get bussed out to the plane. I ended up in a C-17. And you start your trip down. Flight down took about 4 or 5 hours from Christchurch on a C-17. And it's you and all the people going down with you, packed into the plane, plus whatever big cargo they have to bring down. So there's all our luggage put in pallets and packed up to go with us, plus whatever the base needs. Calls in a year. Calls for, week, month, year. Like any fire department, it varies. There were weeks where we had 2 or 3, and then there were nights where we had 3 or 4 fire alarms in a night. A month, we kind of did the rough mental math, 20, 25, somewhere in there. So about averaging a call a day. But some days we'd go days without a call, and some nights we'd get slammed with fire alarms and whatnot. Types of calls: lots of fire alarms, automatic fire alarms. Transfers where someone gets hurt at South Pole or a field camp. We have to take the ambulance out, meet the plane with them on it, pick them up, drive them into the clinic in town. They get stabilized there, treated there. Or if those people or people in town that have to go back to New Zealand for actual further medical treatment because it's limited down there, we drive them out in the ambulance to the plane that's waiting. They get loaded up and they get shipped off to New Zealand for x-rays or long-term care or whatever they may need. So a lot of kind of transfers, if you want to call it that. Fire alarms. Standbys for aircraft coming in, that's another popular thing, but those aren't really calls. So every once in a while, something more major will happen. Falls from heights, broken bones, CPR in progress, P&Bs. If it happens at home, it can happen down there. So, it happens. Some videos scattered around as well. So, I don't know why iCloud makes them all blurry, but we can watch some videos and maybe it'll clear up, maybe it won't. Just don't touch it, it'll work. Yeah, kind of blurry. But part of the big thing, standbys for the C-17, C-130s, the big stuff. And that's it. They come in, land, we watch them unload, get fuel, all that stuff. They take off, we wait 10 minutes or until they're 100 miles out. Then we can come off a hard stand here, pack up and get out of town. And like I said at the beginning, these are just kind of random pictures scattered around. There's no rhyme or reason or order. But one of the neat things about McMurdo is Scott's hut that he built in like 1911, I think, is out on Hut Point. It's 20-minute walk. It's nothing crazy. It's a place you can walk to, and on limited days, they unlock the hut and you can do little hut tours. So these are pictures from his hut from 120 years ago or whatever it is at this point. Everything in it, there's still food and clothes hanging up, pots, pans, blankets, all the good stuff. And this was, I think, Halloween. They had it open. We're telling some ghost stories. Weather. Oh, yeah. This is why I had a picture of this one. Sunset was in February, so they do 4 months of constant darkness, 4 months of constant sunlight, and then in the spring and fall, there's like a 2-month transition where they go from one to the other. It balances out. You have more of a normal day-night cycle, and then it rotates the other direction. So that's kind of fun to look at. I mean, here we are, beginning of November, and sunset's in February. Weather conditions. The way the weather conditions work is like a stoplight. Green, free travel. You know, if you're in a vehicle, you don't have to radio, I'm going here with this amount of people on. Conditions are good. Now, temperature doesn't play a part into the travel, the weather conditions. It's based on visibility more than anything else, and I think wind kind of plays a bit into it, but not as much as you'd think cold and stuff. So it could be -20 out in miserable cold and still be condition 3. 2 is travel still allowed, visibility is limited to the point where you have to radio in to Central Comms and say, this is van 400 with 6 people on board, leaving McMurdo and going to Williams Field. They acknowledge, and they kind of keep track of it, and if you don't, radio in a reasonable amount of time of getting there, they know, okay, this van kind of disappeared on us. Maybe we got to think about going looking for him. So it's one of those things. And condition 1 is extremely low visibility. You're not allowed to travel outside if you're in a building. You need station management permission to go from your building to another building or whatever. So they kind of don't like doing condition one very often, especially around lunch and dinner time, because you kind of annoy people. If you're at the fire station and they declare condition one at lunchtime, well, hope you have snacks in the firehouse. So there's times where it's condition two during lunchtime and then lunch is over and now it jumps to condition one. Kind of one of those. It's on the line. We'll just kind of keep it two, let people get lunch, and then switch it over. Snowfalls. Sort of kind of interesting. Max temp, minimum temp, most amount of snow, the extremes of the previous day. Not a whole lot going on there. Let's meet nose art from one of the US LC-130s, which are the orange-tailed planes with the ski landing gear that only operate at, well, they can work at both Williams Field and Phoenix Field, but they, unless something bad happens, they don't go to Phoenix Field, they go to Williams Field. But as we're looking at that, I'm going to bring up some questions from that I already kind of had floating around. What made me want to apply for this, my mom is actually really big into science and nature and watches all those kind of National Geographic documentaries and stuff, and she ended up watching one about Antarctica and life in Antarctica, and in it they had a little brief, hey, did you know Antarctica has a fire department kind of thing. And this was when I was going through my fire degree program, so I've known about it since then. I've always kind of been interested because I'm one of those people. I want to do something fun and interesting and different. I don't want to do something that 100 other people do, like being a firefighter in my state or my local town. Yeah, it's great, it's fun, awesome, neat. But I mean, get the chance to do in Antarctica, sure, why not? Have an adventure, get paid for it, and do a job that I like all at the same time. Pay range for a first year firefighter, not great. I got about 1,200, so 1,200 every 2 weeks, which is good because you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay for food unless you're buying extras in the store. You don't pay for, utilities like electric and water. Basically, whatever you make is yours aside from taxes and buying extra things in the store and whatnot. But what's kind of annoying about it is they don't do overtime, time and a half. You're paid based on, they assume 54 hours. And so when you do your timesheet, you have to make sure you make that 54 hours a week. Because if you have less, they'll yell at you and tell you, hey, fix this so it's 54 hours. Or if you consistently do it, they'll just pay you, 40 hours, or they'll figure out the math and you get paid less than the 1,200. But if you make, doing 48 hours a time, 90 hours in a week, which I had more than once, cool, sweet, you made 90 hours this week, you're still getting paid at the 54 hours, that extra 20 hours or whatever. Cool, neat, it's part of the job. You're not getting paid extra for it. I'm actually done with my contract. And one of the questions was, what do you plan once you're done? So my contract was about 5 months. I'm home now. I've applied to go back for their summer again, so in the fall here in the U.S. again, as a lieutenant. Haven't heard back. It's under review. Fingers crossed. I'm now a returner. It'd be neat to go back. But right now, I'm still on my volunteer department. I know. Volunteers are kind of frowned upon. I get how it is, the optics, but it's what I am back home. I've also applied to other contracts that are out there because this company doesn't just do Antarctica. I can go to Djibouti or the Pacific. It's not Guam. It's one of those U.S. military bases out in the Pacific, though. There's other contracting agencies where I can go to Iraq, Afghanistan. There's places in the U.S. like in Nevada. There's a military base that they hire for, that kind of stuff. So there's options. I've applied to a couple of those. Plus, there's a army base near me that also has an airfield, airstrip, ARF, which is my style of thing. They don't do so much ambulance, which I'm not big on ambulance, so I've also applied to that. So I have applications out there. Right now, I'm just kind of doing some part-time stuff for the county, my volunteer stuff, plus what I got saved up. Kind of riding that wave. Just kind of more odd jobs. I have a welder. I'm going to start using that, make some money, but hopefully 6 months off, go back, get paid better, and kind of a lot of people do contract, save up, have a summer off, contract in the winter, basically work half the year, screw around half the year, which is kind of nice. How easy is to follow sports and news and I guess in general TV, current events, that kind of stuff? There are a couple TV channels we get through the Armed Forces network. One of them is a news channel. One of them is a sports channel. So you can watch stuff live. It's not like you're waiting 2 weeks to hear about who won the football game. You can watch it. The weird thing about it is because the time difference, Sunday night football in the U.S. is like Monday morning football in Antarctica, just because of the hour difference in the time zones and all that kind of stuff. One more, then we'll move on to some more pictures and general stories. Is what do I wish I would have known before actually going to Antarctica? And wait, where was it? Pay range, sports news. Wish I had known before I started. There's nothing really fire department wise I wish I would have known before I started, because when I went to my refresher for airport fire in Florida, a couple of people in the class I was with had already been. So I got some pointers for them, stuff to pack, little tips and tricks that otherwise I would have not been aware of before going down. So I had that advantage. Plus, the company that does the hiring, when you're officially hired and going, will do a little Q&A with people who have gone before that also talk about neat stuff to bring, stuff that you often don't think about. So I was pretty well prepared. Hopefully, if I go back, there's some other stuff I would bring, like, for example, Bluetooth speaker, because there's one radio station you get down there, and sometimes it's not playing what you like, or it's kind of the same stuff on repeat, that kind of thing. So it's nice to be able to pull out a speaker, or if you're in Tucker or Stella, a couple of our trucks, it doesn't have a radio. So if you're on hard stand waiting for a plane without a Bluetooth speaker, you're kind of stuck listening to nothing. And one more. We'll finish off this little block of questions from this person. How do the fire trucks and stuff get taken to McMurdo / when they're done with at the end of their service life get taken away from McMurdo back to get auctioned off here in the U.S.? Everything arrives on a plane or on a ship, and the ships arrive into January, beginning of February. They come once a year, and those bring all the food, new trucks, fuel, all the stuff for the year, consumables, clothing, that kind of stuff. So Tucker, Stella, the Reds, fire engines, all the big stuff arrived on the boat, got picked up by a crane, dropped off on the wharf in put into service. So all that arrives by boat, and when their time comes, they'll get driven down to the pier, picked up on the boat when it's getting ready to leave, and taken back on the boat. Consumables, depending on what it is, you can get on the plane. So if you have a really bad year and the fire station runs out of IV fluid, or the clinic runs out of IV fluid, and that's a critical thing, you can sneak a pallet on the plane. You can kind of, not so much in the winter, but hopefully they're good because the boat just got there in January. So they should be good in the winter, and if you're halfway kind of through the season and you're out IV fluid or something crazy happens, push comes to shove, you can probably get small stuff on the C-130s or the C-17s coming down in a pinch, but big stuff is on the boat. Other stuff probably arrives more frequently, easier to get other stuff. Some pictures from inside, not that same plane. This is a different plane. I'm trying to remember which plane this is. So this is the inside of one of the C-130s. It's the New Zealand people because of the coat. So it's tight inside the C-130s, and since the propeller planes, it's a longer trip. The C-17 that I was on, both going down and coming back, was about a 4 or 5 hour flight, and I believe the 130s are like a 6, 8, depending on wind, hour flight, so it adds up. Oh, okay, yeah. This is one of the... Oh, yeah, interesting story about this plane. This is New Zealand, obviously. Their C-130H, which is the old model of C-130. And the reason for all the pictures, this picture, close up, little radial, but this plane was the last New Zealand C-130H in service, and the New Zealand Defense Force sent their camera crew down and did a whole big documentary of the last flight of the C-130H before retirement. And now, like, these planes are going to, like, their Air Force Museum, and did a whole big, final flight tour of New Zealand and all this stuff, and it was a big send-off because now they're getting the bigger C-130Js like the US has, with better engines and all the upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So they sent the camera crew down, did this whole big, hooray, it's the last flight. And then the new planes weren't ready. So, like 2 or 3 weeks after this whole big last hurrah, the plane had to come back for its actual last mission. And so this is it on its actual official last flight after the whole big hurrah camera crew and all that stuff came down, before they officially stamped retired on these planes and rolled out the new ones. So I got to see it on its official last mission before going away. This big green thing, Red 2. It was broken the whole time I was there. It was the older style Red. I was kind of bummed. Didn't get to drive it, work with it, which was kind of one of the things I was hoping for while I was down there, but it is what it is. Okay, this will be a video. This is kind of an interesting video. Because it's so cold in Antarctica half the year, and even in the summer it gets often, 20s, 30s, still that kind of freezing temperatures. All the pumps are heated, but when you go out and flow any amount of water with it, so at least once a week, because all the engines get pump run-ups and get some water flowing through everything and exercised once a week, you go back to the station, drain the pump, and then you put compressed air into the pump and then blow all the valves out, so all the water's out of them. And this might be a little bit loud, so heads up, but something that I've never done, even at home where it gets freezing out, is really actually blowing out the pump and doing all that stuff and getting as much water as humanly possible out of it. So that was kind of neat. This sad little corner of a room is the closest thing to personal space I had while off duty. For context, my back is right up against the extra bed sheet that made my door to my little corner of our room, because it was me, my lieutenant, another lieutenant, a captain, and for a while, a captain who went to South Pole. So there was, when I first got there, 5 in a room about the size of a dorm room, pretty small. And it eventually dropped to just 4 of us in the room, but even at that, this was my little corner of the world, and I always at least had one other person, except for I think one time I was alone. So I had my little blue end table there, my bed, and one like cabinet, dresser with like coat hanger rack in it and that kind of stuff, which is just off to the left of the or the right of the screen. But basically, I had a bed and maybe a foot wide little path, foot and a half little wide path for my time while I was down there. Willy Chili, just some of the food that's down there. Willy Chili is a staple when Willy Airfield is open. I think there was 3 days total that there was no chili. One was they were just out, didn't have it, and the other 2 were the chef decided, chili's getting kind of old. I'm gonna make something else, and many people were annoyed that day. The chili is sacred. Don't mess with the chili. It's one of the constants. If you don't like what's for lunch or dinner at Willie's, there's chili and it's probably pretty good. This is. Oh, yeah, this is one of the C-130Js, the new ones that New Zealand was just getting, and this is a visitor. This is actually Arizona? No. Nevada, yeah. Nevada National Guard, I believe, came down and flew some missions. So this is the newer style of plane like New Zealand has that we work quite frequently with. Because there's a period of time where Phoenix closes, and this is about the only thing that can go to Willie's because some of them have skis. Or if the C-17, because there's like one of them is broken, then these pretty frequently wander their way down. Two flights at the same time. The C-130 is getting cargo probably taken off of it. Yeah, I think it was unloading. But the pallets, there's rollers in the floor on the plane, rollers on the big sled. Pallets get pushed off or from one to the other and then taken to wherever it's going or secured and ready for flight out of there. And there's a C-17 coming in at the same time, so neat little pictures. Another picture of the now loaded sled. Cargo sled. Inside the pump, it's dusty. It's hard to avoid the dust down there. It's all volcanic dirt and dust. There's no pavement. There's no concrete. Everything's dirt roads. But you can see all the heat lines in here, all the extra like foam insulation and all these wires that are like heaters to keep pipes from freezing and just insulation everywhere. Everything that can have insulation or heat trace right there. All these wires coming in for heat. Name of the game is keeping everything warm. The halogens are, yeah. I should have combed through this album a little bit better before sharing everything, but these are a big deal. My first one got straight up stolen. Anywhere else in the world, no one cares about a water bottle, but because it's kind of the only thing you have to drink unless you buy like cans of Coke from the store or Mountain Dew or whatever. Your option is water. The store sells water bottles, and they're, yeah. I don't know who steals a water bottle, but it happened to me, and it was fast too. I set it down, walked away. 20 minutes later, went, oh, my water bottle. Walked back, gone. Willie's Field. This is the firehouse at Willie's Field. I've talked about how it's two shipping containers basically stuck together, and yeah, right where these two like antenna or like ladder mast things are on either end, is the seam for the building. So this, with the window, is the lieutenant's office. It goes to right about, probably right here with little boxes on the building. Lieutenant's office, 2 beds. This side is the 4-bedroom with 2 sets of bunk beds in it. Right inside this door here is 2 bunk beds, or 1 set of bunk beds, 2 beds, a little entry area, dartboard, computer area. And on the other side I have pictures of, so not going to get there. Oh, we'll see the inside of that here in a minute. But small building, no running water. Had to bring your own water out in big water coolers. No bathroom in the building. In fact, I'm standing on the steps to the bathroom building for all of Willie's Field. I'm trying to see if there's anything value in here. Ah, yeah, dirt. We'd sweep the bays out at least weekly, if not more. But because of it's just so dusty, like you can see out there, it's all gravel. Trucks are driving all over it all the time. Dust just appears out of thin air. You'll sweep the bay, back the trucks in. They won't move. You'll come back. Absolutely filthy. It's kind of a modern mystery of just how. Coffee house. Nice little place to hide. One of the few places in town where alcohol is more or less banned. Because you can drink in the dorms, you can drink in the lounges. If you want some wine with your dinner, no one's going to look at you weird at the galley if you have alcohol with you. Like, really, the only places where it was actively frowned upon are workspaces and the coffee house, I guess, really. And it was kind of considered a quiet zone, where headphones, don't go playing loud music. A place to just kind of go, chill, do your thing, read a book, enjoy the atmosphere, that kind of thing. I only went to it twice. It was actually kind of nice. I wish I would have gone to it more. One of the things it's nice to bring if for some reason you apply or you end up going to Antarctica, bring a string of Amazon $20 LEDs, like string lights, because we kept the fluorescent light, the ceiling light off in our room basically all the time because people napped during the day, they had a late shift, or we had at one point someone who worked in a different department that was on night shift who'd sleep during the day. So the string lights are a lifesaver. You can customize it here. It's clearly around Thanksgiving, fall time, because I picked orange lighting for then. Just enough to see what you're doing, playing on the computer, watching movies in your bed, and not having the blinding ceiling light on. Oh, Condition 1. This was one of, and he's in the Q&A, so I'll throw his name out there. One of Ryan's first times out there, and all he wanted was Condition 1 super serious weather. And this is the one day we actually strung the flags out between the fire station and the bathroom because of how severe the weather was. But again, spoilery, but let's go walk to the fire station from lunch in Condition 1. We had to walk to lunch. We don't really keep food in the firehouse aside from Hot Pockets and microwave pizza. Oh, yeah. And in fact, I think the Air Force actually left before this storm blew in, so we were actually the only people there, aside from some galley people who ended up being trapped there. But, yeah, fun time. Ryan got his wish. And usually when they can kind of tell if this weather's blowing in, and if the Air Force decides to go in, it's the only reason we're out there is for the Air Force at Willie's Field. So if they go in, we can often just load up, go back into town, and there were frequent days where I'd be on a 48-hour Willie shift in theory, and when we were out on a Willie shift, you'd stay out there, but we'd go out there 8 hours the first day. Big storm would blow in, Air Force would go, we're going in, and they wouldn't go back out until like 2 days later. So I'd get to basically have a snow day from work because the Air Force is not going out. We come back into town. Hey, neat. Enjoy your day off you didn't know you were getting. In my red video, I talked about there were two different styles of red. In that video, it's the wide box, air quotes, as I call it. This is 6, which is Ryan's best friend, because it overheated like 8 or 9 times on him. After they said they fixed it, we had to take it back out to Willie's or Phoenix, whichever one it was. He picked it up, drove it. 10 minutes later, overheated, and then it overheated again, and the third time, and then the vehicle maintenance people came out to see what the hell. We just fixed this, and it overheated for them, and then the second time, and then the third. So poor Ryan was tied to this thing for like 3 hours because it was just drive it 3 minutes, shut it down, drive it a couple minutes, shut it down. But this is the narrow box. Same stuff as the red that's in the video, just a little narrow box with some storage on the outside. Oh, spooky red. This is the inside of, and there's actual like a normal color picture looking the other way. So it's right now probably like 5 in the morning. So we're all trying to sleep. I ended up sleeping on the couch just because of whatever reason, or I was up early or whatever. It doesn't matter, but you can see we have a microwave and a fridge, and that's it. No sink. There's no bathroom. Here's the little computer area through this little doorway, the main entrance in. Lieutenant's office is out back this way behind this wall. The 4-person bedroom is hidden behind the fridge, but there's our water cooler. There's one of our 2 jugs of water and a coffee maker. That's it. Pictures from an ice tour, some wildlife, seal waving at us. It's kind of neat because as the ice shelf moves up against, which is the permanent ice shelf, it's there year-round, it's what the airfields are built on, butts up against the seasonal ice, which melts out in the summer and comes back in the winter. And as the ice shelf runs into Ross Island, which is what McMurdo's built on, it'll push up and kind of create these pressure ridges where, tries to push up on the land, and kind of like fault lines for like earthquakes, fault lines, that kind of stuff. Same kind of thing. Ice builds up, shifts, creates these cool looking little ice caves and shelters and ridges and all that kind of stuff. And it would change frequently. You'd drive out over the little ice road out there, and you'd drive over these hills that were the ice pressure ridges forming, do 48 hours at Willie's, come back, and they were in a different spot, or they were taller, or they shifted. So you can't watch them move, but they move pretty quick. Aftermath of a Willie's snowstorm, which is kind of annoying because we had to dig both Port Tucker out here, which fun ride, struggles pulling the sled. Not really designed for it. But we had to dig Tucker out and the sled out with shovels before we could pull it out. I mean, thing's pretty much buried. Sled is buried. Yeah, control tower hiding in the background. Another little batch of questions while I'm sitting here looking at the disaster. McMurdo and Scott Base working together, fire protection, that kind of thing. Scott Base is, for reference, a couple miles away. It's just the other side of Observation Hill, kind of, which I know is meaningless because you may not be familiar with the territory, but they're really close. They're a couple miles apart. When we drive to the airfield, we pass Scott Base on the way. Like, Kiwis from there come visit McMurdo. We can go visit them on certain days. They're our neighbors, basically. They don't have an actual fire department. McMurdo's the only full-time fire department in Antarctica. They have a brigade which is built up of whoever happens to be down there, ends up on the fire brigade kind of thing, gets trained up. We won't automatically go over there unless either A, they specially request us to come over, or the other scenario is they have, I believe it's like 4 locations where if they have a fire occur there, they just automatically call us, and it's like life critical places in Scott Bay. So it's like the kitchen, the little medical bay, I think, maybe like the vehicle maintenance because it's a high hazard building with all the oil and grease and stuff, and then there's like one more. But those are the only ones we'll automatically go to. But if they call, we'll go. We're not going to be jerks to them saying, sorry, figure it out, but it's what it is. Radio communications between Scott Base and McMurdo. I believe. I know for air traffic control, Central Comms and McMurdo is the air traffic control people. When there's no actual air traffic control open, like this tower, past like 7 o'clock at night, this tower closes, and then Central Comms becomes air traffic control. And, we'll tell people, hey, there's a plane coming in. If you're on the runway, check in and get off the runway when this tower's closed. And there's no tower at Phoenix, so their Central Comms is default, kind of, air quotes, air traffic control for that. But I believe all of the New Zealand, I think New Zealand uses our towers, our repeater towers for radio traffic, but they have their own radios, but it's the same frequency. They may be able to talk to each other, but you have to go to like a shared channel. Because I know that they have their own little radio office in Scott Base. Because just like McMurdo, when they go driving places, they have to check in or say, we're going to McMurdo with 3 people. And they're not going to bother us with that. That's something they worry about. But there's... Is there a radio? This is one of those questions where it wasn't one of those things we talked about. There might be shared radio, but I know the phones work. We can phone call over there if we had to, but I don't know about radio. I'd be surprised if they weren't, but I can't say for sure. Next kind of question. 11 full-time firefighter. Last I understand, there are 11 firefighters that are full-time. Is there anyone else that has a secondary position to be a firefighter? That doesn't sound like... If this question's talking about town, they're talking about winter, because we had way more than just 11 firefighters in the summer. like our shift, our half of our shift was 8 people, and a full shift is 16, and there were 2 shifts, so we had like 32 just firefighters. That's not captains, and there were a couple of those. So in the summer we have way more firefighters. In the winter, it might be actually about right for winter, and there's less people there. Like this winter, there's like 200 people there. A lot of the buildings get closed up for the winter. Like Central Comms moves into the firehouse. The main building gets, a one last deep winter cleaning before winter, and it gets closed up. So people aren't as spread out. So the 11 can pretty well handle the workload of a winter there. Pole, I know it has some dedicated firefighters. This question 11-ish sounds about right, maybe for Pole. I didn't go to Pole. It was one of those. Wait. Yeah, I didn't go to Pole. I signed up for McMurdo. I worked in McMurdo. Some people got cleared to go to Pole if they had to, which is if I do want to go to Pole, which would be neat. I'd want to do that where you go for 2 weeks, help fill in, train the fire brigade for the winter, that kind of thing. Because there's some firefighters that go to be firefighters, and then there's people that are on the brigade as well. So if something happens, there's more hands down there than just the paid firefighters. It's a mix down there. So some of us would go for 2 weeks, get to have the South Pole experience, and then come back. And that's what I'd want to do. I wouldn't want to go for a full season because limited showers, limited things to do. You're kind of always on call instead of 48/48s where you have work 2 days, have 2 days off. They work more of like a 8 to 4 in uniform, Monday through Friday kind of thing. But that means your nights are kind of, you're still on call, so you never really have time off. You're always getting ready to go into work the next day, so it's a trade-off. And in the winter for Pole, there's no dedicated firefighters at Pole in the winter. It's all people who are the fire brigade that get trained up right kind of the end of the season before the full-time firefighters leave. Or, like this year, there's 2 firefighters who worked summer, they're full-time firefighters, but wanted to do a winter at the Pole. So they hired on to be like maintenance or a mechanic or something else at Pole for the winter. But since they're full-time firefighters who did the summer, they'll just they're kind of also going to be like brigade leads because that's the real job, but they want to do winter at the Pole, and you can't just be a firefighter at Pole for the winter. You have to do a different job. Yeah, this is the other kind of back half of the day living experience out at Willie's Field. So behind me is that sad little kitchen. And in fact, that first picture, I was like laying on this back couch or sitting in this back corner. So this is all the chairs, the table, all that kind of stuff. Behind me, TV, 2 couches. That's it. This is the Willie's Field life experience for 48 hours. Hope your friends are at least cordial with all your coworkers, because there's nowhere to hide. Through this door is the lieutenant's office, one of the bedrooms, and like a little where our gear hangs and stuff. But excuse me. Lots of movies. Because when the planes aren't flying, I mean, we get up, we do our truck checks in the morning, radio check, make sure everything's in order. If it snowed, shovel out stuff, general housekeeping kind of stuff. But once the tasks are kind of done for the day, and they don't take long, like 9:30, 10 often in the morning, okay, cool. Except for flights, when we got to be on standby for flights, be free. So I watched more seasons of Family Guy. It's sitting in one of these chairs or on this couch in the picture than I have anywhere at another point in time in my life. Action movies, big seller, comedies, frequent played. Every once in a while, someone will throw some on. I threw on a couple more movies. Those were kind of common too. Band of Brothers series. We had one kind of guy that was kind of the manager of the TV, just because, and he was cool about it. If people wanted to specifically put something else on, he'd say, "Oh yeah, here, put on whatever." But often, like the Family Guy and a lot of the stuff that was on the TV wasn't really to be engaging. It was more often than not just to kind of provide some background noise, something you could look up. Okay, this is interesting, while you're playing video games on your computer or using the very limited internet out here. It's all wired internet. Hotspots on your computer. IT at the beginning of the season was real uptight about personal hotspots. They'd shut it down in a hurry. Towards the end of the season, as long as you weren't like trying to watch Netflix out at Willie's Field, they were a little more real. Don't abuse it. Like, don't make us do something about it, and you'll be okay. That was kind of the running thing. If you had your hotspot running all day long, 24/7, you'd get in trouble. But it got to the point where pop on your phone, watch some TikToks, go on Facebook. You know, you'd be fine more or less. But lots of computer games, lots of TV, lots of naps at Willie's. Most it's kind of a shock to me. The full time departments I've done ride-alongs on, or I have worked for full time departments in the past. Bedtime's at 10. If you're in your room sleeping at 2 in the afternoon, you're probably going to get weird looks or frowned upon there. A lieutenant, especially with the flights of the planes fly when A, they're not broken, and B, when the weather's nice enough to fly. So there'd be stretches where no flights, and then a stretch of we're gonna have flights taken off like every 4 hours, three planes going all the time. Flights arriving 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Just constant, like, go. And so there are often nights where you'd sleep a couple hours, wake up, half an hour, plane comes in, lands, cool, lay back down, sleep another hour or two, wake up, another plane. There were days where once the last plane was in, next plane the next day is at 2 in the afternoon. We'd sleep 11, 11:30, crawl out of our beds, go eat lunch, come back, still tired, crash on the couch, throw on something boring on TV you don't care about. It was great. Lots of safety naps. Ancient technology, rotary phones, pay phones in the lobby that you didn't have to pay. They were just free phones, but still with the coin slot and all that stuff. So ancient technology thrives down in McMurdo. Tucker, fun ride, overheated a lot. A lot of these pictures, not much to say. We'll cruise over. Oh, this video won't play, which is fine. Maybe. Yeah. There is stuff to do down there. Bacon riding a bicycle. It was a nice day. It was like 40 degrees. You can rent skis. You can go for hikes. There's outside activities you can do. Get a bicycle. Just screw around outside, lounge in the sun, throw snowballs at each other. The magic carpet. In the summer, where the ice road meets Ross Island, where it transitions from being the ice road to land, it gets real melty. And despite how much they try to, you know, clean the dust off the vehicles and knock the dust loose and the dirt and all that stuff and try and keep the vehicles as clean as they can, it still gets dirty, it still gets melty. It's just the way that the transition is. And so the magic carpets, which are these big things that are pulled by a tractor. I'm not going to play this video. There's another video that's better on the magic carpet. But if it's broken and can't drive, it gets towed on the magic carpet. If the road is so messy and soft that a wheeled vehicle will get stuck, it rides the magic carpet. Or if the transition is absolutely wrecked, which, heads up, there's a video coming up that's pretty impressive and some pictures, you'll ride a magic carpet. Burger bar, food, some more McMurdo food, flyovers. We made friends with the Air Force, and so flyovers were a big triangle's kind of annoying. Can't do much about that, but fun times. They liked showing off, and we liked getting a show. So they'd take off, loop around, do a low pass, head north, do whatever. So it was like having your own personal air show. This fire station. You can see more of that, just that dirt, dust that gets everywhere. Tracked into the bay. It's a mess. It's gross. There were a lot of comments. Hey, the trucks are dirty. Clean them. We can't wash them, except for once a year. Is the allotted, water usage for washing vehicles. One wash per vehicle a year. Can't brush it off. It's volcanic dust. It'll scratch the snot out of the paint. So we'd do windows. We'd clean windows when they were dirty and muddy, but paint, sorry. It is what it is. One of the Nevada National Guard planes that came down. Traded some patches with them. Cool people. They came, got some flight hours, some mission hours. So neat. More videos. I wish the videos weren't blurry, but it is what it is. I don't know why it's doing that. Menus. Food at McMurdo. That's a good talking point. There was always an option. They were always themed, and they always provided options for different menu restrictions. So, some pork for people who kind of ate whatever. Fish. If you only ate fish, I guess. You didn't eat, like, bacon. His religion said no pork. He could eat beef. He could eat fish. He couldn't do pork. Vegetarian, chickpea salad, tuna with the 2 O's. That's like a knockoff, like... I know what the tuna is. I believe those were like tofu, which is why there's T-O, like tofu. So, like, fake tuna wraps for people who were, like, vegan, didn't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. So, there were options for whatever menu restriction you had. And food was often themed. So, like, dinner had, like, a Indian curry, vindaloo, kind of tikka masala, like. Meals were often themed. There were, like, southern nights where there'd be, like, collard greens and jambalaya and shrimp and that kind of stuff. And if, like me, you walk in, that doesn't look good, that doesn't look good, that doesn't look good. The menu for tonight doesn't look good. There was always pizza. There was always some pasta and, like, a basic sauce, hot dogs, grab and go, which was like leftover refrigerators from previous meals. Worst come to worst, breakfast cereal, or you can make a waffle. There's options. Even me being a pretty picky eater, I had choices. Often I ended up eating pizza just because nothing else looked good. But if I was tired of pizza, I could have pasta or a bowl of cereal or something. So don't be afraid if you're thinking about going that you're not going to have stuff to eat. There's always options available. General activities. You got your open hours. Southern, which was a bar until semi-recently, is now more of like another coffee bar where you can, if you bring alcohol to Southern, you can have it. They just don't sell it there anymore like an actual bar they used to. But if you bring it, no one's really going to say anything, unlike the coffee house. Gallagher's is the actual bar where you can still go in, buy a beer, buy a whatever. Where they'd also do like movie night or like karaoke, or there'd be trivia there. There was always kind of something going on throughout the week at Gallagher's. Library, I volunteered there, did a couple hours there volunteering. It's small, but they have a little bit of everything you can find. Pickleball, open fitness in the fitness room, so you can see like open fitness here. There was often like open um, open gym time, which is anybody can go in, pick up a basketball, kind of like a free use time, and then like pickleball or touch rugby, where like actual like scheduled events where the gym was kind of only, or like there was a climbing wall in the gym that you can go and climb on. So there's ways to keep active. Christmas in the chapel, Wastemas. That was, I didn't go to Wastemas. It was a one night only thing, and I missed it. But kind of all the departments throughout town could rent a mill van, which is an empty shipping container basically, and decorate it up and do whatever. So like the Stewies who worked in the galley, they were like the people who put food out on the buffet and made sure the drink machines were filled, washed dishes, kind of the general help of the kitchen. They did like their own like Christmas play. The fire department had like a little come in, get a hot mug of tea, chill out little lounge with some chairs and blankets and stuff, and it was kind of like a little like pop up celebration kind of thing. Scott Base had some basic merch that they brought out to sell, and so one of those kind of things. Oh, Christmas time. This is a fun video. That I'm probably going to get copyright struck on, but I'll roll those dice. Christmas carols over the PA on the engine. When the guys, there was only like 3 of us on shift plus the lieutenant, so 4 of us. The lieutenant was gone. There were 2 others with me. When they went to do this, I was going to go with. But that little bit in my head said, this may not end well. Because in McMurdo, unnecessary sound is frowned upon. Don't use the sirens on the vehicles unless someone's just not paying attention. You need someone to move when they're not paying attention. The trucks didn't have air horns. Don't go, honking your horn for what, just no reason. Like, sound discipline is one of the big sticking points down there. And so when they went to do this, I was kind of like, you guys have fun. I'm not going to rain on your parade, but I just don't really want to be a part of this. I can see this kind of blowing up in your face. Go have fun. I just don't want to go with. So they went out driving around playing Christmas carols over the PA, as you just saw. And the people of McMurdo, scientists, galley people, construction people working on the dorm, they liked it. People wanted them to honk the horn. Didn't have a horn. That blows. But they were just driving around playing some Christmas carols, right before Christmas, 22nd, 23rd, something like that. Everyone's having fun. But eventually the station manager, either caught wind of it or they drove past, the management office where the station manager had his little office. And he kind of said, okay, cool. Kind of got to knock it off. Like, it's not really, that's unnecessary sound, so. He didn't chew him out. He was cool about it, but again, people ask, why no siren? Why no air horn? One, there's really not a need, and 2, being loud can get you into trouble. Handset bowling at the Christmas party. Kind of neat and interesting. I'm not gonna watch the full. Well, it's 15 more seconds. And ready for the next person. So there used to be a bowling alley, from what I understand, in McMurdo, but it either fell apart and got the building got torn down or replaced, or maybe I don't think it burnt down, but there used to be a bowling alley, from what I understand, with a couple lanes, and now I think this is the only bowling that you can do in McMurdo now. They have like this machine, and it comes out at like the Christmas party, and they kind of have the basic lane made out of clearly plywood, and just doing what you can with what you have. More Scott's hut. You can see McMurdo in the background. In fact, you can see the fire station in the background right there, with its very 1970s brown and white stripe design. For all the complaining that we did about food, tastes kind of old, not really that great, kind of blah. There's no internet, the complaints of the 21st century. After a 20-minute walk to Scott's Hut, you go, well, maybe it's not so bad. And fun fact about Scott's Hut, especially this hut: one, it's made out of wood, and two, it's got like these weird. I think it's in the next picture actually. Yeah, this weird kind of like a porch, but like this eave thing going on. I found out that this building is actually like a pre-made, like in the 10 whatever Sears catalog. Scott said, "Yeah, that building will work," and it's a prefabricated house, but it's designed for the heat of Australia. So he got this pre-made building to bring down and put together, and it turns out it was kind of not ideal because it was designed to keep you cool with shaded porches and all this stuff. Again, great in the heat of Australia in the summer. Not so great for the cold of Antarctica. And just like the inside, there's piles of canvas left over and rope, and I know it's sad, but I'll be honest, that gray blob, that was going to be dinner in 1910. That's a seal. That's been laying there for 100 and whatever years. So things don't decay very quick in Antarctica. Stuff just kind of hangs around. More food. This is probably Thanksgiving. Candied carrots, potatoes, wild rice, prime rib, cranberry butter. The chefs, I'll give them credit, they did their best with what they had. But since everything arrives frozen on the ship, so this is probably like a scalloped potato, like a boxed mix, or like a dried potato kind of thing. The carrots were probably frozen. The meat was definitely frozen and then thawed before. It tasted good. They did their best, but after a while, you kind of, especially as time goes on and you start reaching farther back into the freezer later in the season, you can kind of tell that, yeah, this has got that freezer flavor. See, look at that. Bowling alley turned down in 2009, from what you understand. I don't know, take your word for it. It's not there now. Cell reception. So, in New Zealand, just like when I went to New Zealand, I was charged like $15 a day for like out of country roaming, but I could still use my phone as normal in New Zealand. Obviously, they have cell service down there. Cell service for actual McMurdo, there's no cell towers, no signal whatsoever. But you could do the calls over Wi-Fi feature on your phone, the sitting on your phone where you can do calls and stuff over Wi-Fi. So I could call. Could I call on my phone? I'm trying to remember. No, there was something weird where I couldn't call on my phone. I could get texts just fine. Text come through fine on my phone. With the Wi-Fi, I can go on Facebook. I can go YouTube, do all the normal things on my phone over Wi-Fi. Text, FaceTime would work. I would FaceTime my parents, but for some reason, calls would never work. So if I was specifically going to call, I'd have to go and call off of one of the phones on base. So since there's no cell signal, the Wi-Fi is routed through Australia. But other than that, I didn't have any like roaming charges or anything while I was in Antarctica. The provider, it's kind of annoying. We're a US base, but the internet gets routed through Australia. And so eventually, like, I'd start getting ads for, like, join the Royal Australian Navy on, like, Twitter, or, like, I'd get, Australia wireless internet ads and stuff on my phone for, like, YouTube ads and stuff because of where the internet was routed out of. And it was also really annoying because, and I think they're cracking down on this year if I go back, which is kind of sad because apparently internet was kind of expensive. Starlink was expensive for them because everyone was using the snot out of it. And so I get why there's only so much funds to go around and why spend a bunch of money on internet when there's things that are probably more important. But it's one of those things where we're limited in other areas. At least like let us have internet decently. But like Netflix would work, Disney Plus would work, Amazon Prime would work, but like other streaming things worked. It was kind of a weird mix of some stuff would work, some stuff wouldn't. But because everything was routed through Australia, when I would log into Amazon Prime to look for TV shows, it'd be like amazonprime.au. And so I'd find shows that I wanted to watch from back home, but because of the region locks and stuff, and VPNs are frowned upon, you're not allowed to use those, you'd go to buy it or rent it and be like, sorry, can't do that. Not available in your area. So that was kind of annoying. Decent structure fire down there. Well, down there, no. Home, now, yes. In fact, amidst a frankly absurd amount in the month-ish that I've been home. We had a pallet factory burn down, and then we had a boiler room at a plant nursery burn down. So home, yes, structure fires all the time, pretty frequently. Down there, nah. I think the whole time I was down there was like a cigarette like butt can that the wind caught, and there was some hot cigarette butts in there, and kind of torched up a little bit that they went and put out with a water can. And there was like a treadmill that was smoking that they had to hit with like a water can as well, I think. But structure fires down there. The last one was like the church in like the 90s. The church has burned down a couple times. It's weird. Or every couple of years, like 2-3 years, it seems, there'll be a car or a snowmobile or something else will catch on fire. But big fires down there, nah, not really. Thanksgiving dinner. Sorry, Christmas dinner. I forgot what time of year we were at. Again, they decorated nice. It was kind of a nice dress up, sit down kind of dinner. Plenty of options. They had a whole, area full of desserts and take your pick. Toffee, vegan things, gluten-free things, all the options, Christmas cookies, like they for as limited as really, the boat arrives, unloads its cargo, and that's what you get for the year. They managed to do a lot with the set amount of stuff they have. Christmas softball, New Year's softball, which was going well until someone got hurt and had to get medevaced, and they kind of said, well, maybe we call it here. Let's not hurt anybody else. So, fun time. It was fun to watch. But softball game. Not really worth watching. One will be blurry too. If you've seen softball, you've seen that. Food. The one nice thing is, in the summer, fresh fruit, vegetables, and eggs will arrive on the plane pretty frequently, the aircraft pretty frequently. So there were freshies. There was always like bananas and apples and fresh fruit, which is really nice, and fresh eggs. So there's an egg line, and so like often if I went to lunch and nothing looked good, I'd go, I didn't really eat breakfast. I'm not a big breakfast person, but the egg line's open, so I'd go and get an omelet or scrambled or two over easy with some chilies and bacon and kind of dress it up the way I like and had some fresh, whatever eggs for lunch, which is one of those little things that's nice. Engine run ups out at the old Willie's Field. We laughed that one of the kind of the jokes is, and I get protecting the environment down there is important. It's like the last pristine environment. We get it. I get it. It's nice. There's not a lot of trash floating around. They do a really good job of wrangling trash and keeping lid on things. While I was down there, they did like a cleanup town day, and they picked up like a ton of trash. I think like a literal maybe like a ton of trash, just that was floating around. So they do a good job, but you laugh. You can't use sirens. You gotta you can't interact with the wildlife. You can't be loud. You gotta noise discipline, all these things. And then you go out to Willie's Field and you see the big 4-engine C-130s doing run-ups, and this is what they look like. Just the biggest plume of exhaust and like you could be over by Scott Base on land because this is the point that kind of juts out. There's like I think there's pictures of it later, but on the backside of this little spit of land here is McMurdo on the backside, and on this side is like Scott Base, but it's just off screen here, I believe. So you'd be driving down the road past Scott Base. You can look off in the distance, see the little buildings of Willie's Field. And no matter how many times I'd see it or you'd see it, you'd look over and go, oh my God, something's on fire over there. There's a big like black smoke cloud that is, oh yeah, it's Willie's. The C-130s are probably running. Like, you could see it from town, just this big black exhaust cloud off in the distance. Like, remember, pick up your trash. Don't be loud. Look the other way when the Air Force is doing engine run-ups and putting black exhaust and out in the atmosphere and all over the ice and everything. Flipper. Two reasons for this picture that I kind of need to talk about. One is this is one of the old fire trucks from I think the 80s that got repurposed, which, neat, whatever. That's not the point, but it's now a big fuel truck. So this big tank on here has diesel fuel in it, or fuel oil, because out at Willie's, and I think there's some better pictures of Willie's, and I'll point them out when we get there, but there's two types of heat. There's like a big power plant generator in Willie's that runs off of diesel fuel and provides electric power for obviously everything. But if that goes down, and it did once in a while, you'd be sitting in the fire station and then the lights would kind of flicker and get a little dimmer and a little dimmer. And then finally, like, everything would be out except for like one light bulb that was holding on for dear life. And then it would die. And that last one would go out, and then the emergency lights would kick on. And you'd go out into the airfield, and it'd be silence. The power plant has broke down. So, cool, now you're out of power until the electricians can figure it out. So if the heat goes out, or the power goes out and your electric heater goes out, all the buildings had fuel tanks like probably about this big. Maybe like a 50-gallon fuel tank on them. But those would get topped off, and then you could run like a secondary heater that was like burn diesel fuel for heat like an old school fuel heater. Food at Willie's, more limited than in town, but again, they did their best. King crab sauce, some pasta. I think that's some rice. Some duck breast on like a little duck gravy. I tried new things while I was down there. Some of it was good, some of it wasn't, but it's a surprisingly wide variety of dinner options. This one, eggplant. That might be. Ooh, stop. That might be. I don't remember if that's town or Willie's. No, that's town. But yeah, I get menu. Tucker and his 15 minutes of being inside the firehouse before getting pulled and parked on the line for repair. I like that little truck when either Tucker or Stella, and Stella I have pictures of in here, come up for sale for auction if they wanted their way back to the US because some stuff stays down there. I want to buy one of them little things. Those things were fun. But Tucker's the pickup truck style one. Kind of struggled. It overheated really quick. You'd like park the truck for hard stand, and if you left it in drive, because of the tracks, it wouldn't move. There was enough resistance in the system where just being an idle in drive, it wouldn't move like a car would. It wouldn't coast or kind of whatever. But you could sit there and watch the transmission temperature gains just climb and climb and climb and climb. Put it in park, and you can watch it very slowly come down and come down and come down. So Tucker overheated a lot. Stella, not so much. Stella, for whatever reason, no heat problems. Tucker, all the heat problems. This is one of the hiking paths around. Two of them. This one that I'm on in Observation Hill, you can do whenever you want. You don't need special permission to go do it. If you do one of the farther out ones, you have to grab a radio, contact Central Comms. You have to go as a group of at least like one other person, but the bigger the group, the better. There's like no solo travel, but this one in Ob Hill, because they're so close to town, you can just do the walk, do the hike, be fine. Like, no big deal. So those are the two that I usually end up doing just because it was, you didn't have to try and form a group and set up a time and remember a radio and all this stuff. You could just go when you wanted. And Central Comms does pay attention. If like you go on a longer hike or your group goes on a longer hike and you say you'll be back at 4, at like 4 o'clock, if you haven't checked in, they're going to try and call you on the radio. And usually if you go, oh yeah, sorry, forgot, we're taking our sweet time, we took some pictures, it'll be another hour or two. All right, remember to check in. They're cool about extending time, but if 4 o'clock rolls around, they'll like try and call you once. If they don't get an answer, they're starting the search and rescue team. And it's happened where the search and rescue team, warms up because it takes about 20 minutes to page in because they're not just the search and rescue team, they work other jobs on base. So by the time they, get together, gear up, get the information, get their vehicle ready, get a plan in motion, it's like 20, 30 minutes. So if they get them moving sooner rather than later. There's been times where people will do a hike, forget their radio in, get back to town, go to bed, be tired, whatever, walk out of the room, people go, where have you been? I fell asleep. Why? Oh, well, the search and rescue team's out looking for you. Oops. So they don't mess around. But for perspective points, or from this point of view, town is off to the left. This is the road that goes down. Here's where the boat comes and docks. This is where the softball game was. And out here, you can just barely see Scott's Hut and Point and all that stuff. So, and the trail that I'm on snakes around. You can just see like a little bit of the line just kind of creeping its way around, and eventually works its way down. You can basically do a big loop that ends up more or less kind of the edge of town. So it's a nice hike. There's some elevation change. It's fun. General arts and grass photographs. Ice stock New Year's party, kind of the one exception to the noise rule, where it's like a 12-hour, like starts in the afternoon, goes until early morning kind of thing, where live music, I like them. Everyone that's playing music or singing is just people who have talent that came down to work. Some are scientists, some are in the galley. They all come down, form a band, practice, play some music for ice stock, that kind of thing. There's people who are DJs that do good music. It's one big dance party. Everyone has fun. But it was really weird to be at midnight on New Year's, countdown to the new year, and have it, this is how bright it is during the summer. It's middle of daytime, basically, and it's midnight in reality. There's other videos of ice stock. I thought it was some big, a lot of people. It's not. It's pretty small. Like, this is ice stock. It's not a big thing. There's a good documentary out there that's free on Prime and it's free on YouTube. Hold on a minute. Yeah, dog's out skirting around. That's what that was. But the documentary is called "Year on Ice," free on YouTube, no ads. Avoid the comments. I read through them. Very few of them have nice things to say. On one hand, I get where they're coming from, but on the other hand, there's more to it than the comments lead you to believe. I can talk about them maybe down the road, but it's one of those things where you're like, It's people who. I'm trying to be nice. People watch the documentary, have their mind, set up of whatever, but there's more to it than just what you may get from the documentary. Like, you can't be an expert by watching an hour-long documentary and going, you people suck. Especially because a lot of them are about, one, not being able to interact with the animals, and two, like, the low impact, all that kind of stuff. So, watch at your own risk. Oh, Stella, my favorite. This thing is obviously the same year as Tucker, but I like this one more. There's a nice heater in here. You can get it nice and toasty. There's some benches in the back. A little more room. You can throw your gear in the back. It doesn't get all covered in snow from being kicked up by the tracks. You can keep things warm. It doesn't overheat. I like this little machine. It seems to do a little bit better pulling the sleds. Neither of them were designed for it, but fun time nonetheless. Tucker Stella. It's got the big fuel tank. Yeah, Stella. Our fish hut. Because of the limited room out at Willie's Field, 8 people required on a shift for the airplanes, 8 beds in the building. You're going to have a bedmate unless you crash on the couch. Well, yeah, unless you crash on the couch or someone else crashes on the couch. So we ended up getting a fish hut, which there's like 100 of these things down there that are used for the dive team, research out on the ice, extra little buildings around town, like temporary buildings, kind of like basically like a mobile shed, if you will, mobile little building. We ended up putting 2 beds in here, so the 4-bedroom person can drop to a 2-bedroom or 2-person bedroom, which no showers at Willie's, made it a lot more tolerable smell-wise, temperature-wise. You weren't overheating with 4 other people in a small room. And depending on who was out there on our shift, one guy just kind of claimed the fish hut. We're like, yeah, fine, you can have it. No one else really cares. So he ended up just kind of having the fish hut to himself, which, whatever. Sure, if other people wanted it, we could have. Worst come to worst, set up like a rotation schedule where your turn for the fish hut, now it's this person's turn for the fish hut, but extra little space that always. Yeah, this is the kind of fuel tank for the fuel heat. But just that for all the buildings, just in case the electricity goes out. Lots of fog. I'm surprised how foggy it actually gets down there. But yeah, I think this is just Tucker running around. This isn't really much to play. More ancient technology. And yes, it works because there were days where we'd walk in for lunch and one of these movies was on. So VHS is alive and it lives in McMurdo Station. Phoenix is only open a couple months during the year because in the height of summer, it gets too warm, the runway gets a little too soft, and so all the planes come into Willys Field. And so this is that time where, hey, Phoenix is closed. Let's move everything to Willys. So now we got 2 sleds, an ambulance, a red kind of off screen behind all that stuff, 2 Tuckers. It was like a used car lot for a brief period of time, it felt like. One annoying thing about the sleds, because of the friction, well, one, whenever a sled drives over, it creates a sheet of ice. And of the 2 times I slipped on the ice in Antarctica, one was because I was walking where a sled had been, went, I probably shouldn't walk here. This is like the slipperiest place in Antarctica. And then I fell. So that one's on me, and the other one's actually in my red and sled video, where I went to get in the truck, and because the red keeps parking in the same spot and compacting the snow, it turned into a sheet of ice, and I ate it on camera. And, keep it in, why not? But another headache is because the friction, it'll kind of melt the snow a little bit, so you'll come in, park the sled, park, whatever vehicle's towing it, one of the snowcats. It'll cool down. That little bit of water between the sled and the snow will freeze. And so every morning you'd go out, start everything, make sure everything starts, warm everything up, and have to break the sled loose. Depending on how bad it is, sometimes it'd break free pretty easily. Sometimes you really kind of had to push the snowcat, kind of give it some pretty hefty gas before it'll kind of break free, lurch, and then you can kind of move it around a little bit, break it loose. At other times, it was frozen in place. Snowcat couldn't move it. The big tractor that would be grooming the runway, once it was done to come over, hitch up, break it loose for us, but it was kind of a mixed bag. More often than not, you could get it to break free with the snowcat, but if like the previous shift had forgotten the previous day, or because they didn't fly on the weekends, we'd have like Saturday night and Sunday off, or the weekend kind of off from Willys. It'd sit there for a couple days and really freeze up. Then it was a lot more challenging to break it loose. Backside of Ob Hill, really interesting red color. Like, I knew volcanic dirt was like black and like that made sense. It's so red. Like, even in the picture here, it doesn't really do it justice. It's like a really like dark, like brick red almost. This is your hiking trail around Ob Hill. And it is that steep. It's a little like 1-person wide footpath, and it's really steep hill here, mountain hill, whatever you want to call it, and really steep mountain hill here, and there's a lot of elevation change. Loops around, you can see it kind of comes back up, and by the end you're closer, like maybe like 20 feet above sea level by the end of it. So it's a pretty solid workout. Like, more planes, one of the Baslers, which are like old, like DC, like 1940s planes with new engines and some new technology. We didn't have to do standbys for little planes like this at the airfields. They could come and go as they pleased. It was just the big military, the C-130 and 17s that we had to do standbys. Plus, every once in a while, the New Zealanders would send like a C-1 or a like actual like more commercial like Boeing 737 down. But these guys just kind of did their own thing. Cool to see. We didn't have to do anything special for them. Ugh, gross. I forgot how just sad. Even in a short amount of time. But this is one of the bunk rooms in McMurdo. Firehouse, fire station. This is the one I would usually default to. It's fine enough. Got your own TV, especially since we were doing minimum staffing, so everyone could have their own room. When I first got there, that we were still doing full staffing, so it was like me and like one or two other people in here, kind of not great, but I can manage. It's fine. Mind the lead paint, but other than that, if you can work past the asbestos old building and lead paint, yeah, it's a fun experience. Not much you can do. There's plans for a new firehouse though, so they're working on it. Just things take time. Another Basler. This is the very beginning of a Willie shift, and I know because all our stuff is still piled up on the ground outside before getting drug inside and beds made and gear put up and all that stuff. So, blue or linen bags. Our linen bags, we generally each grabbed 2 bags when we got there, one for our bed in our room, off hours, our dorm room, and then 1 bag that was our linen for if we were at Willie's or in the fire station. So, blue bags are our linen bags, black are our gear bags, and then the orange slash, whatever, is usually what people use for their computer and their personal stuff or their snacks and that kind of stuff. So, a lot of bags crammed into a van to go with us. But more importantly, because it's so flat on the ice shelf, ice shelf sounds stupid in hindsight, but you could see storms coming from a long ways away. So like here, we got there, we're moving stuff in. Oh, great, okay. The first flight's at 11 or whatever. You'd be grabbing your bags and like in reality, right about where my cursor is cruising across would be the horizon on a normal clear day. And so you'd be bringing your bags in the morning, and then you'd see like this big wall of snow off in the distance, this big like almost like a white dust storm creeping towards you, and you'd be like, this is about to not be fun in a couple hours. And yeah, you'd go, okay. A couple hours later, storm would blow in. You'd go condition 2, condition 1, planes would stop flying, and at least you got a heads up. Oh, and here's the 1 bathroom building for all of Willie's Field. So if it's storming outside, you got to use the bathroom. Have fun. Enjoy your, not long walk, but still not fun. Penguin's going for a swim. Oh, yeah. Now, this one, and I think the next one. Yeah, these aren't my pictures. These are from a big group chat from McMurdo, but I had to save them because this is the transition experience during the summer. It gets real melty. Like, this thing's buried. It's not a short vehicle. Like, these are some big snow tires, and it rides pretty high off the ground. As you saw in the earlier picture, it's the same truck, but and it's terrifying, but it's not going to break through the ice because the way it was described to me, and it makes sense, is there's like a permanent layer of ice under this, but it's like ice, layer of snow, layer of ice, layer of snow, just because of the way that it freezes, season to season. So what'll happen is there'll be like a top layer of ice, it'll melt. then that layer of snow under it'll melt, but then that layer of ice under that is still, protected. And so you can drive on it, you can walk on it. It's not like you're gonna punch through and like your truck sinks. But I mean, it's not fun. This is why you have to ride the magic carpet or take a tracked vehicle. Like, eh. Yeah. Again, not mine, but that's a pose. Ancient technology. This is from the McMurdo Museum that they put on. But these are some like Vietnam era radios. I mean, you can see it down here. And I have an actual picture of this sheet if you want to read it coming up. But between this and this, and you can see inventory stickers of 25, 25, still in service. And I like weird old electronics, so this was like me shopping for stuff I need down the road. But there's that piece of paper, I guess. But kind of funny, like they started using them in the 60s, and McMurdo has a bunch of them, and the only reason they're getting rid of them is they can't, like, you can see, like, the battery was kind of thrown together. Like, pretty impressive. Poor Ivan, who's actually now, thanks to the work of a man in France, at the New Zealand Antarctic experience. Which movie's that? Uh, maybe, I don't know what movie, but Ivan's now at the Antarctic experience, and I actually got to see him that night at the museum do his last kind of. They had it open for tours, and I made it not in time to see like it, the whole thing. They shut Ivan up at 10, and I made it at 10, so I didn't. I never got to go in Ivan, but I got to see the whole start it up, saw it run, close the door, do all that stuff, and I went to the pier, sat at the pier. I have pictures of it there, and just as I was leaving New Zealand to go home, Ivan made it to its new home in New Zealand. So, kind of the last little gasp of Ivan before getting shipped off. Snowmobile trip that I did. So, because of the limited staff there, I mean, it's not limited, like, but to break up the monotony, we'd often get allowed to have the chance to accompany other groups going out into the field as kind of like a little reward to break up the monotony. So, like, one lucky guy got to go up the side of Erebus with the research team and do some time up on the volcano and help them. Some people got to go help, the dive team with them doing dives and help the divers in and out of the water. I ended up going out with the field team, I believe. I don't remember the exact name for it, but all the roads around, all the ice roads and trails and stuff have these flags marking them. Like, there's some ones marking, I think it's a fuel line in the back. Different colors mean different things, but I ended up getting to go out with a group of people to replace like 200 of these flags. So I got to. Yeah, Year on Ice. I wasn't there when he made that. That was, what was it, like 2013, 14, I think it was. I only just went this past summer, so got home like a month ago, but that guy was there because he's actually now the New Zealand kind of Antarctic public relations photography kind of, he's that guy. So he was there, and the one woman who's one of the people interviewed in there, who in the since you're talking about it, you've seen it, I'm guessing. She's the one who talks about how her grandma called about her dad, and at the end is eating, taking the big bite of the apple. She was also there while I was there, so I got to watch that documentary in McMurdo in the galley as those two did like a director's commentary of what it was like making the movie and all this stuff and like little points behind the scenes. So wasn't there when it was made, but I got to watch like the live director's commentary as a, in Antarctica. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, so I got to go around, drive a snowmobile for the first time, and at the end of this, we were told, "Hey, all these flags that we replaced are going to go in the garbage. So if you want some, have at it." So I like took got my hands on like 5 of these flags and did a bunch of stuff with them. Had the firefighter sign one, kind of took another one and just kind of wrote like a stupid little message on it to hang on my wall back home, and then I have a couple like blank ones that I didn't do anything with. But fun trip. Got to put up a old school tent at the end of this trip because one, it was to replace flags, and two, they were doing like a little raffle event called Room with a View where you could enter in with, it was going to be, you needed a partner to go along, so it was you and a plus one to ride a snowmobile out. You know, it's like an hour long or like a 45-minute snowmobile trip. Go take pictures at this little remote place. Ooh ah, do the thing. Take pictures with the tent, and then go back into town. So I got to also set up a tent in Antarctica. It was a good movie, but I was talking earlier. You may not have been here yet if you're just getting here, but it's free on YouTube. It's free on Amazon Prime. You've already seen it. Don't go to the YouTube comments. It's a lot of people who mean well, but don't understand. It's YouTube comments. Like, I get what they're coming from, but there's more to it than just what they're saying, kind of thing. A lot of it about the seal, if you know what I'm talking about, the whole can't interfere with the wildlife and the seal. Um, Most places, yes, they worked 6 days a week, and I was on the fire department, and so the fire department was kind of like the unfavorite child of McMurdo. Like everyone got along, but the fire department had kind of like this. It felt like a lot of people, not just to me, but all of us, that oh, it's the fire department, that kind of thing. Part of it is in the past they had apparently a guy who was a real jerk to everyone, and even though he's been gone a couple years, and one of those, they ruined the appearance of the fire department and the firefighters forever, kind of thing. He was one of those people where he gave everyone else by extension a bad name. Yeah, it's probably for the best for YouTube comments, but like I know the Stewies, the chefs, basically vehicle maintenance, all those people do work the 6 hour days or the 6 days a week, and often you weren't guaranteed the same day off. Like I think the one person always had Tuesdays off, but it was one of those things. But being on the fire department, we worked 48/48s, and I feel like I had some glares here and there of it's Tuesday. Why are you just land like kind of those like, don't you work? Oh, I did. I worked 2 days yesterday. I worked the past 2 days, and now I have 2 full days off. So it was kind of nice. Everyone else is at work, and you're like, I'm gonna play video games in the lounge. Sucks to be you guys, but it balanced out. Yeah, they had to work 6 days a week. I had to spend 48 hours at a time at work, but I'd rather do that and have more full days off to do whatever during the day. This is hiding underneath its little cloud hat is Erebus, the southernmost active volcano, actually. But Erebus is kind of like, it's only at 20 miles from McMurdo. And so on my snowmobile trip, we were kind of creeping up the slope of Erebus. So here's a neat picture. Erebus is hiding under there somewhere. It's got its own little cloud hat going on, but getting called in on your day off. Everyone there has a pager. Just phones kind of sort of work, but not really. But yes, we could get called off. In fact, on one of my days off, I did end up going on an ambulance call because the shift that was on were at both airfields because our priority down there is airfields come first for the Air Force because everything has to come by plane during the summer. So airfields are like number one, McMurdo's number two. So the on-duty crew were at both airfields. And so an ambulance call came in. So I dropped what I was doing, went to the fire station, and ended up going on an ambulance call on my day off. So yeah, it happens. It didn't happen often. Like, I think my whole time I was down there, I got called in for that call and a scheduled training event for like a mass casualty training kind of thing. But yeah, it's no different than like, I'm here at home. I'm a volunteer firefighter, so I'm kind of used to that. But it is what it is. Snowmobiles. Oh, the transition. Earlier, I was talking about how the ice road where it goes from Ross Island on land to the road out on the ice shelf gets melty. This is an experience. It's like the world's saddest roller coaster. But yeah, no matter how hard they try to keep the ice road nice and solid, it just gets so warm in the summer. It just kind of gets melty, and it's a little nerve wracking your first couple times to be. I'm on an ice shelf. There's ocean under me somewhere, and I'm going through little mini ponds of water. Oh yeah, no, I get it. You got to work. I'm home right now. I did reapply to Antarctica. I'm sure I'm going to run out of Antarctic stuff in a minute, shortly here. There's only so much I could talk about for a 6 month stay, but there's probably going to be maybe some stuff from my home fire department just to kill the time. But hopefully, if all goes well, there will be more Antarctica in a few months, maybe, if my if I end up getting the position I put in for. So, but I get you got work. This sad-looking machine is E-Man out on his little pedestal of sadness. E-Man is a tractor that the fire department has, but it broke before I got there. It blew up an engine, like it shot a piston out, a cylinder, blew up a cylinder. But I got some stories that were told to me about E-Man. The biggest one is because it's hydraulic drive. If the engine stalls out, you lose all braking, all steering, everything. The whole, you hold on, you're going for a ride, kind of thing. So one day, they were coming back from one of the airfields, and E-Man was going up, and it's a pretty steep hill over by Scott Base, climbing up back into town. But E-Man's going uphill. Behind him is one of the Reds, kind of following this procession. And E-Man stalls out going up this steep hill. And they lose steering. Engine dies. Lose steering. So now E-Man is going backwards downhill, uncontrolled. The two guys in E-Man are like gearing up to like make a jump for it because the road kind of curves back on itself going down this steep hill by Scott Base. And so if they can't stop E-Man, they're going off a cliff or down a hill into the ocean, or they're going somewhere not fun. So they're flying backwards in E-Man. And the red behind them stops, sees this. They put it in reverse, try backing up, or try and scooting out of the way. They can't move in time. E-Man crashes into the front of the red, bends the hood, messes up the bumper. E-Man's fine because it's got this big heavy-duty tow bar on it. But stops E-Man's wild ride back down the hill. So E-Man is by far, if you don't know what you're doing, the most dangerous thing down there vehicle-wise. But he was broken the whole time, so never had to worry about driving E-Man, but scary. Like, I don't want to drive that thing. Sounds horrifying. Ooh, that's blurry. We're not even going to talk about that. Not my video. This is from the group video, the group, post thing, but it's a fun video. You'll see why. This is the road into town, like down by the ocean, so the penguins will eventually wander into town and poke around. Oh, speaking of penguins, more stories. See, I knew they'd come up as I went along tonight, but there's a strict don't mess with wildlife rule down there. Like, there are 2 ways to get sent home fast from McMurdo. 3 actually. One of them is abusing alcohol. Like, if you get drunk and like have a rough night, like a bad night, start acting like a jerk or do something stupid because of alcohol, you're going home. Harassment, anything, that person made a comment, made me uncomfortable. They're gone. They're strict on that, which, good. And the other is messing with the wildlife. That's like, those are the 3 ways to end up on a plane back to McMurdo in a hurry, or away from McMurdo in a hurry. But the thing with the wildlife is everyone wants their picture of the penguins or the seals or whatever it happens to be. And the fire department is the only group in McMurdo that are authorized or allowed to wrangle, herd, however you want to phrase it, the wildlife. For like, if they're on the runway or they're near where the planes are parked and they're getting ready to load or unload a plane, or there's a seal in the middle of the road, like my one video, that where the animal's going to get hurt, it can't be there. That's fine. Like, I'm here to answer questions. Like, before I went to Antarctica, there was like a video of the fire department. Like, there's not a lot of info out there. So this whole video is kind of story time. Any questions, even if it's not fire department related, if it's just what's it like in Antarctica, to like what's the food like I'm here for all of it. Like, I had a fun time. Like, I want to be I like being the person to kind of share the stories. But oh yeah, wrangling wildlife. We could herd the wildlife only if the station manager and like the science team signed off on it. So if like the control tower said, "Hey, there's a penguin on the run. There's a couple penguins on the runway," they'd call the station manager just to save time. They'd call the station manager. He'd go, "Yeah, okay, yeah, they can't be there. Okay, the fire department can herd the penguins." Then they'd radio us at Willie's or whatever and say, "Hey, there's a couple penguins on the runway. Station management already gave the okay to herd the penguins. Go herd the penguins." So then we could go, and it's very strict. Don't interact with the penguins if you can help it. A lot of times, all it took was us kind of showing up, big, red truck, vehicle noises. They'd kind of go, "Oh, okay," and they'd wander off, and neat. Other times they were a little more stubborn, and we'd have to get out and kind of hold our arms out, look big, kind of slowly walk behind them, and just kind of encourage them softly to go somewhere else. Which is fine because we had permission, but oftentimes, especially at the airfield, there'd be fuel people around or just people who had other things going on that were there. And there were a couple times, like at least twice, where we'd heard some penguins, penguins would move on, or would be actively trying to get some penguins to move on. And you'd get people come up, who are, working fuels or aircraft servicing or whatever. Hey, you guys need a hand? Like, thanks, you're trying to be helpful. You, we're the only ones allowed to hurt the wildlife. Everyone's going to get in trouble if you help, so it's just, thanks, you can't help. And most of the time, people go, oh, okay, and they, go away, take their pictures from a distance, and all was good. Every once in a while, we'd have people who go, hey, can you need a hand? Oh, no, thanks, we're good. Sorry, you can't help. And you go, oh, okay. And they'd be like right up on the penguins. And so you go, hey, you guys gotta like back off. Like, we're all gonna get in trouble if the wrong people see your how close you are to the wildlife. Like, you gotta go away. Oh, okay. They go away 2-3 minutes, and you turn around. Oh, they're back by the penguins. Hey, you guys have to leave the penguins alone. Oh, okay. And like they go away. A few minutes later, you turn around, and they're back by the penguins. And we try to be nice. Hey, we don't want to be jerks. You want your pictures with the penguins. You gotta leave the penguins alone. Like, go. You can take your pictures over there. You just can't be 5 feet away from the penguins crowding up on them. That only works 2-3 times. They're just not listening. They don't really care. Ooh, penguins. What we found out is that we, like me, most of the fire department being Americans, from all over the U.S., but we're Americans, we couldn't curse people out. We could, but cursing in America is one of those things where it's kind of, that's just being mean, right? You don't want to be that guy. But on our shift, we have, like, each shift had a New Zealand firefighter because the defense force from New Zealand would send their aircraft firefighters down for some field experience, some training, get to, do the thing, go to Antarctica, get a little mini deployment. So everyone had their shift Kiwi running around. And much like Australia, cursing is different in New Zealand. It's not looked at in the same light as it is in the US. So we found out we could send our shift Kiwi over and he could curse out people in that endearing Australia New Zealand way that only they can. And then they kind of get the message and finally go away. So that was our secret weapon, if people weren't listening, is send our designated person over. Scary when the 200-mile-an-hour storms hit. Those are more of a winter thing. The big, super duper mega storms are a winter thing. I do have video. Where are we? I'll circle back around to it. It's earlier in the video, but I have video of us walking to lunch. Oops. Maybe I'll be able to find it in a hurry. I know I'm going backwards, but it was more annoying than anything else, storm-wise. Like, oh, here. But yeah, this is like one of the worst storms I had while I was down there. But for me, I'm from Wisconsin, and so I'm already familiar with cold and wind and suck weather like that. But for us, it was more annoying than anything because when they do the weather restrictions, like if it was condition 1, you couldn't walk to get lunch. You weren't allowed out of the building without like station management approval. And so we'd be like, oh, it's lunchtime. Oh, it's condition 1. We're stuck in here. Well, I hope there's something good in the freezer. Or you'd be like, oh, it's lunchtime. Oh, man, it's so windy and like cold outside and the wind's blowing and it's all like that. this is gonna be cold, and you walk to lunch. Like it wasn't. It was. I never had a moment where I was scared during a storm. It was more of just like an inconvenience. Like, oh, great. It's like home. It's blowing snow and it's cold and I'm hungry. But the big super like 200 mile an hour, the big storms, those are kind of only like a winter thing. In the summer, they're a lot more mild. So if I ever do a winter, we'll see. Maybe that my opinion of the storms will change. But for what I had, poor Ivan. There's Ivan with the other handful of vehicles getting shipped off to be auctioned off. Another menu. Power generators. So the only time I was ever a place that lost power was Willie's Field, where that video was taken. But that was because the generator building for Willie's has two power generators in the building. So if one goes down, there's a backup, or they kind of run both to share the load. And for whatever reason, like both stalled out one day. And it was like an hour or two that we had power. We were without power, and it was annoying, and couldn't watch TV. Big sad moment. But the power plant in town has it's like 4 or 5 diesel generators in it, and it's like 2 are always running, 2 are on standby, 1's getting repaired. Like it will be a dark day if all of the power generation for McMurdo goes out. And being as how I was in the fire station, and in the winter, central comms for the whole station moves into the firehouse during the winter to keep people from being super spread out during the winter. We have a backup power generator in the fire station. And in fact, we got a new one while I was down there. They pulled out some old 1980s thing that was in the corner that they couldn't get parts for and put a new one in. So, being on the fire department, I was pretty safe from not having power. And like the once or twice we ran out of power at Willie's, it was one of those things where the Air Force can't really do their things without power. They need it for maintenance or whatever, or doing stuff in their buildings. If we're just out of power for long enough, we'll just go back to town and come back. Like the Air Force isn't going to be out there when there's no power. They can't do anything. We're only there for the Air Force, so worst come to worst, we'll just go back to town until they fix it. So, not that big of a deal. Ob Hill. This is right outside McMurdo, more or less glaring down on McMurdo. And you can hike Ob Hill. You can climb it freely if you want. And I did it one time with 2 other firefighters who were bored, like, hey, let's climb Ob Hill. I'm a bigger guy, like, I'll be honest, like, and I'm from Wisconsin. Like, this isn't Wisconsin land mass. This is not. Here we have little rolling hills. So, climbing up this hill, I'm fine. This isn't so bad. Kind of steep here, whatever. Here, there used to be a power plant, or nuclear power plant, back in like the 70s, 80s. So this is a nice flat, like, pad area. Yeah, pretty nice little break. This climbing up Ob Hill is the trail. And right about somewhere in here, the path just kind of goes away. It's like, it's a dirt path. It's steep, but it's a nice path. And then it's like, well, the path just kind of ends. Here's the top where the cross is. Kind of choose your own adventure. You can snake up this way. You can kind of creep down and around this way. It was not a fun time. It was rewarding. I got to say I did it. But it's like, okay, neat. It took like an hour or 2 for all of us to climb up this thing, because it's something we've never done before. It's a new experience. And to add insult to injury, on the way up, right about this point, we're climbing. We're like, this sucks. This is steep. It's rocky. it's all volcanic rock. I just tore a big hole in my gloves that I like because I slipped and the sharp rocks ripped the hole in my glove. This isn't fun. And then some guy in a t-shirt, shorts, and Crocs, no socks, just Crocs, comes like sprinting up the side of the hill, normal Tuesday day afternoon for him, gets to the top, that was fun, and goes running back down. Like he sprints this mountain daily. So it's one of those like I'm riding the struggle bus and you're running up this thing in Crocs. This is now just ridiculous and almost humorous. Oh, why is that so blurry? Oh, scared me for a minute. Here's here's the icebreaker cruising around, and shortly before the icebreaker got here, the cargo ships park in the little bay that's over here. In previous years, I know from watching documentaries, the icebreaker has to do some legwork and break a lot of ice getting in here. This year, those poor guys must have been bored. Like, all this was pretty well melted out like this when they were first getting there. And so, I don't know what it was like farther out to sea. Maybe they had a lot more ice to break. But it was like, you'd watch it, but they just kind of go this way and loop back, go a little ways, come back, loop around. And they were just doing hot laps. Like, no ice to break. Mission's accomplished. Waiting on the boat to get here. And so for like a couple days, they were just out here doing hot laps. Maybe they'd go break some ice farther out to sea, it'd disappear for a couple hours here and there, but it was more or less these poor guys who probably just want nothing more than to take a break and come ashore and goof around or do whatever. And they're stuck doing hot laps, not breaking ice, just waiting for the boat to get there. Here's Ob Hill again. And I think I have a different view of this. This is what it was like in town, where it's really kind of interesting because McMurdo, it's kind of almost in the side of Ross Island, and there's like cliffs and like ridges and stuff all the way around McMurdo, and so weather would like out on the ice shelf, the airfields would be like condition 2, condition 1, lots of snow, lots of wind, storm blowing in. Arrival Heights, which is kind of behind McMurdo, would be again condition 2, condition 1, big storm. But like the storm would like kind of go over town or around town. And it was like living in a reverse snow globe where in town you'd be like, it's kind of breezy outside. I need a sweatshirt. But it's still condition 1. It's nice out. It's not, horrible out. And then you look at the weather board and everything else is like orange or red. And you'd look out of your room and you'd just see like the edge of town and then nothing. Fog or snow or whatever. So it was kind of interesting that way. And so like Ob Hill would disappear, but in town you were generally pretty safe. Like that's what it looked like from Hut Point. Same exact time as when I just took that picture that was in town, all kind of clouded over. But like I said, the weather would kind of snake around town. Out here, direction of airfields, miserable. Back behind town, miserable. In town, pretty safe. Pretty solid. Not so bad. Lineup of all the LC-130s with their skis. All these planes are old. They're from the 70s, I think, most of them, if not all of them, sometime in the 70s. They were frequently broken. There would be days where, like, this one needs engine work, this one has a flap problem going on. One of these had to declare an emergency because an engine went out mid-flight. Another one had an emergency where they lost, like, one of the control surfaces, like some flaps or something on the wing. Like, these things are old, and the Air Force does a pretty good job with the limited resources they have down there, but there were frequent days where, the weather's so nice to fly, and then the phone would ring. Yeah, we're not flying today. All the planes are broken. Movie day. Sweet. And on the other hand, it'd be like, we've got the planes fixed. We can fly again. South Pole needs stuff. We got to get planes in the air. Weather. So, I'm the On the days where the stars aligned, and the planes were working, and the weather was nice, there'd be a lot of flights. Only reason this is up here is another one of those stupid stories. Everything, because we're dealing with aircraft, and in general, the fire department likes military time for like reports and that kind of stuff. Here's all the flights for the day. Like as I was saying earlier, plane leaves at 8, comes back at 3. One leaves at 11, comes back at 6. Those planes get turned around and they each fly, 2 missions in a day. So like there'd be nights where you'd go to bed and wake up at midnight, get an hour of sleep, wake up at 2. Sometimes you'd have to wake up at 3 or 4. But so there were some nights where sleep wasn't all that available. But one of our guys struggled with military time because he'd look at this, he's like 15, and you have to do the mental math, and you could explain it to him, but it was one of those things where he just couldn't fully get military time. So one day he came in and wrote it in normal, normal time. Which one was normal time? This one? Yeah, this one. So he could keep track. And we gave him some crap for like, what, you're a firefighter and you can't do military time? Like, it's kind of the thing. Someone else who was in the military is like, oh, if you want to be really specific, put Zulu time up there. So he came over and he put Zulu time on. Someone else came over and was like, no, man, you got to do this time scale. And I was bored. I'm like, oh, you know what? Forget it. I want my own time scale from back home. So I like put Central Time up there. And so we had like 5 different time scales up for the same flights. And just bored, nothing to do. Screw around and put like 5 different ways of telling time on the board. The purple strip lighting. One of the shifts, and that whole shift is my new best friend forever, because they spent like the 2 days they were out there putting this nice LED strip light all around the kitchen and the day room and all this stuff. All nice and all. That was the best thing that ever happened at Willie's Field. We walked in one day and they often put it on red because it's one of those strip lights where you can have the little remote and put whatever color you want up. Red was pretty common, but for whatever reason, our shift, purple, all the way purple. And so, there it is, watching movies, nice purple mood lighting, more or less. It's probably 2 in the afternoon. You can see the light creeping in through the cracks in the window shade. Nice dark purple lighting. That was probably my favorite part, is being able just to... I'm a night creature. It was so nice, basically keeping it dark and nice and cool in there. Right. One meme, because memes are one of those things where you have to kind of live it to understand it, but this one should be pretty... It's easy to understand once I explain it. So, food wastage is a big issue down there because there's only so much food. It arrives on the boat once a year. It is what it is. So, often what we would discover is like, let's say Monday, there was always like some plain whatever available on the food line. So like Monday, there'd just be some like plain grilled chicken breast sitting out for whoever wanted it. All right, cool. Plain grilled chicken breast, whatever. Tuesday, it'd be like, today's dinner is chicken, like a chicken and vegetable, like a chicken curry or whatever. And it'd be like, yesterday was grilled chicken. Today's chicken curry. And this chicken looks oddly grilled. So very clearly, today's lunch was yesterday's plain chicken with dinner. And then, like, a day or two later, you'd go, and there was always, like, a bake of some kind. Kind of like a hamburger helper kind of thing with, like, some cheese and some pasta and kind of whatever all baked together in a pan. And, like, 2 days later, you'd go downstairs to dinner, and there'd be chicken bake, or like chicken curry bake. And so, like, the same piece of chicken was grilled on Monday, turned into curry for Tuesday, and like Wednesday or Thursday was now in the chicken bake. So, points to them. They managed to stretch food as far as they possibly could, but it's one of those things where you can only cook a piece of chicken so many times before it turns tough and sad. The boat coming in, the rocket. This might be loud. Again, I don't know why everything's blurry, but when the boat comes into dock to get lines ashore, they have little rockets that they shoot across with a little rope tied to them that they then tie to the big rope that you pull ashore and slip over the bollard here. That the big rope that ties the ship to the shore sits on. And story about the rockets. I was on the line handling group for when the first boat came in, which is where this video is from, it coming and shooting rockets across. Then, we'd put the ropes on the little bollards here, and our mission would be done for a while, because then they'd do the other side. Well, they were shooting rockets to the other side where these dorms are. And off to the left here is one of the older dorms, and actually where the new dorm is being built. But in the older dorms, there was some like VIPs staying from McMurdo, like NSF lead people coming down, checking up on things, doing a big, grand tour, big important people kind of thing. And they're shooting these rockets to get the lines to shore to dock the ship. And apparently, they misjudged one of these rocket launches. And so, one of these big important VIP people are in the dorm, looking out their window, watching the boat come in. And they fire off a rocket, and this rocket goes sailing, over here, but more off screen, obviously. And it, like, hits the side of the dorm next to the window where this big important VIP is staying. And it, like, sticks in the side of the building. And just one of those stories where you can't make it, like, it's just so fitting. Oh, I'm gonna watch, big important science person and almost have your window taken out by a rocket launched by the cargo ship. Deltas. I rode in a Delta once. We were specifically told don't open the roof hatch and don't operate the heater because, like, exhaust will fill the room or the cabin. So, and I can see why. Like, it's a pretty smoky machine. Like, and when the boat gets there, it's go time. This is actually the Navy Seabees showing up. The boat hasn't even docked yet. They're still launching their rockets, tying up. They're lining up to put the pier together when the boat gets there. Once the boat pulls in, it's go time until the last boat leaves and the dock's packed up. It's like 24-hour operations. Chris, it's what replaced Ivan. It's cold. Not real warm, I can say that. Not much with that. Cargo. Another flyover. So blurry. Man. Stupid triangle. I don't know what the deal is. Whatever. It is what it is. It's like your own private air show. One of the rooms at the firehouse are very nice lead paint window frame. Another little story kind of related to this room. My last shift, as it would turn out, my last 48-hour shift before turning my gear in, cleaning up my room, and leaving. So 3-4 days before I got on the plane to head to New Zealand and back home, I had claimed this room. I threw my stuff, my linen bag on this bed right here. Went, perfect. I reserved my room for tonight. Neat. I like this room. Flash forward to like 8, 9 o'clock at night or whatever it was. Finally, I'm going to go to bed, go upstairs. Door's closed to the room. It's weird. I don't remember closing this door, but who knows? Maybe someone walking by closed it or, whatever. Not that big of a deal. But, I quick knock on the door just to make sure. And from inside the room, I hear, yeah, hey, what is it? Odd. Or like, come in. So I like crack the door, go in. The New Zealander, the Kiwi that was on my ship, was a fun guy to work with. He's in the bed, which is kind of behind the door. Right here, there's another bed. He's sitting cross-legged on this bed, watching TV, without a shirt on, and eating pizza in bed. So I'm like, amused by this sight because it's a sight to behold. Let's be real here. You go to bed and you find a Kiwi shirtless eating pizza, watching TV in your room. So like, what you doing? Eating pizza, watching TV. I see that. I kind of claimed this room. Like, my linen bag's right here on the other bed. Like, I claimed it early. Like, what's the deal? It's like, I unclaimed it. I thought a minute. I mean, what do you say to that? Like, I'm not gonna argue with the man. I'm not gonna like say, sorry, too bad, get out. Like, so I'm just like, it's such an absurd situation to be in. It's like, I see that. Okay, I guess. And I like grabbed my bag of linens and I went and slept on the couch downstairs in the day room. So that was my last little experience of the Antarctic Fire Department, is being kicked out of my bedroom by a shirtless Kiwi. Landscape shot. Some of these I'm going to breeze by. Pretty self-explanatory. Plane taxiing. My belt buckle. It's kind of sad that it's sideways, but one of our captains had these coins made. And yeah, I think only had like 40 or 50 of these things made. Just enough for basically the fire department and like a few extras. So on one side, I mean, the guy, I think it was like $20 for one of these coins he was charging. And bless him, it's a big coin, but he crammed everything on there. One of the patches, one of the old reds, Willie's Field, McMurdo, one of the both kind of planes, like Penguins, backside, the continent, like, man did some good work. It's a long video, I'm just gonna kind of flip through some of these. This is the whole of Willie's Field, aside from the air, like the control tower, which is like right behind me. Fire station, bathroom. All this stuff is like Air Force. And the galley is like way at the end of this row. And Erebus, just kind of sitting off our volcano, off in the distance, but Willie's Field. Lieutenant's office at Willie's. Since I was already roommates with the lieutenant in town, I just took top bunk and just slept in this room at Willie's just for the sake of I'm already roommates with the guy, whatever, don't really care. One, he was a snorer and a loud one. So noise canceling headphones, very nice. Really happy I brought those. But I never really got to sleep well here. I could work with the snoring. I got used to that. But because it's the lieutenant's office and you always got to be he's always got to be listening for aircraft departures or announcements or weather updates or just important things. Often at night you'd be sleeping and you hear like a page for town on the radio, or like town would have to go on a fire alarm and get paged out. So a lot of interrupted nights of sleep. Even if it wasn't for flights or stuff I had to worry about, it was just always noises, always things going on. Trying to sleep in this room. A little bit of the Scott Base store. Scott Base is like their store. This is about it. There's some more shirts and stuff on this side, and like some food and like snacks behind the counter. It's a quarter the size of the McMurdo store, but I bought so much stuff here. Despite how small it is, they have way more stuff than the U.S. McMurdo store. Like I got some gloves and hats and all different shirts and some souvenirs and whatever. I went to Scott Base a lot. Like you'd think I was on the New Zealand Antarctic team. Just if you went through my luggage, like I have like 3 or 4 McMurdo shirts or like U.S. Antarctic shirts, and like piles of sweatshirts and shirts and stuff from Scott Base. Just so much more stuff in so little space. It's kind of sad to be the McMurdo store. Like they work with what they have. They can only buy kind of what they have the funds for, but just wow, such a difference. Squad. My little tour of the Coast Guard ship. When they docked, the crew had a day to the crew of the ship got to go in town and trade patches and explore town and have some time off. And then we got to go and tour the ship and shop at the store on board the ship. So I got a nice like hoodie and some patches and challenge coin, a bunch of stuff from the little onboard ship store, which is kind of neat. Got to tour the boat, do all that kind of stuff. Stella, nothing much to say there. Towards the end, the Air Force was really fun to work with. When they'd be like loading the plane or like getting fuel or whatever, they'd let us on board the plane. Like we'd drive over, kind of in sight, wait for them to give us, the all clear, come on over kind of hand signal. Go over, hop on the plane. They'd break out their little tote of stuff they had for sale. We could buy patches and all their stuff they had. Some guy, one time, I think it was this plane actually right here. We went on board. We were buying stuff from their little onboard store. One of the guys like, "Oh, you want some unit patches?" And he pulled out like a big, like 5-gallon Ziploc bag of just unit patches and said, "We have piles of these. Here's a colored one. Here's a subdued one. Here's 2 for you, 2 for you. Free patches." Like they were so accommodating and fun. We just got to, while they were loading or doing whatever, just go over, hang out, chat with the air crew. Fun times. Fun times. Oh, never noticed that guy back there before. Crew photo. The first sunset in like 4 months, I think it was. October, November, December, January. Yeah, 4-ish months. And at first, the sunset's not much. It kind of goes behind the mountain. And it'll kind of creep back up over here. But it's below the horizon, air quotes. And so this is the, air quotes, first sunset that I saw in like 4 months. Big herd of people leaving. This is kind of the first group of firefighters to leave around this plane. This is like into February. Big group photo. So, I mean, there's more firefighters than you think. So, some of these guys I think went to Pole and then we're coming back to leave, but it's a pretty healthy sized fire department for what it is. Patches, these are all the Antarctica patches, and I threw this up here more just to talk about because I've had a few people reach out and go, hey, can I get a patch? The way the patches work are, I've never seen one of these. This is an old like discontinued style. I've never seen one of those except for in Antarctica at the fire station. These these three right here, I found maybe like $5 a patch. Like these are pretty easy to find on like eBay or like different patch websites. Not super hard. If you want an Antarctica fire patch, these ones you can pretty easily, cheaply get your hands on. Like I said, $5-6 a patch. This one is one of the older style of patches. This is the only one I've seen. I think I may have seen one like pop up on eBay of this style, but that's about it. This one is the only one of this style I've seen. This is the current Antarctica fire patch. And patches, the official ones, are locked on. So I wish I could say, oh yeah, I got a pile of patches that I can trade. Or, oh yeah, you just gotta like send a letter down and they'll send you a patch. We got a patch at the end of the contract. Like even as one of the firefighters down there, I could not get my hands on this until I finished the contract, got the challenge coin, the big group picture. I got a coin and a patch. And like we had a couple people who just didn't work out. They left early, didn't finish the contract. They didn't get a patch. They didn't get a coin. Like I got a patch. So it's mine. Like if you find one of these, cool. Someone didn't want theirs, but as much as I wish I could say, oh yeah, I got like 6 of these things, I can send you one. Sorry, man. Like I can't. We had people from the Coast Guard ship come in. Hey, you got a patch or a shirt we can have? Nah, sorry, man. We're not allowed to have extras of things. Like, they have what they have, and they hold on to this stuff until the end. This one is a custom one. You can find these floating around. This isn't an official patch. It's neat. Pick them up if you can find them. These ones are kind of expensive. I think I saw one for like $60 or something crazy like that. If you want one, cool, but your money. This is another air quotes unofficial patch that we had made. It's this, but in the military, like subdued. Some of the fire guys had these two made into patches, obviously, and so like I bought a whole bunch of these. The Air Force loved these for trades because of the subdued and all that stuff. I ended up having like I traded a bunch of these. I have the ones I keep for myself. I think I have like one that I'd probably be willing to go, all right, sure, I got a patch you can have, and it's one of these. So if someone digs their way through this video and wants this patch right here, and they're quick on it, like, I'd like to see it go to like a military person or another firefighter. Like if you're one of those people, float me. I'm not gonna like say no if you're not one of those people, but I'd like to see it go to someone kind of in that family first. But there's one of these, so if you really want one of these, like maybe in the comments pitch me a little why you want it. Kind of your backstory more or less, kind of thing, and if I like what I'm hearing, you may win a patch. And this patch right here is like something that one of the guys just kind of created. Like I have one of these, and it's another unofficial patch, and like he got like I think 50 of these made or something, and good luck. Like unless someone out there that I worked with doesn't want theirs and it ends up somewhere, that's it. Getting ready to leave. on board the plane, looking out over the mountains, kind of on the flight home. This is the inside of the C-17 on my flight back. There's like 100 people in here. We had a maxed out flight. I ended up sitting on the sides. Surprisingly comfortable, all things considered, for the flight home. Another view of just my last kind of glimpse of Antarctica, at least for that trip. We'll see what happens. But a story about flying back. Antarctica is a desert. And it's cold, obviously. So, really dry, really cold, all that kind of stuff. And you get used to it. You're down there 5-6 months, whatever. It just becomes part of life. So we get on the plane. We're flying back. It's an airplane. It's still pretty dry. It is what it is. We land in New Zealand. We're taxiing over to where the bus is going to shuttle us over to the airport where we can go through customs and all that stuff and return to semi-normal society, right? So as we're taxiing over, they lower the ramp on the plane because there's some cargo or luggage that they're going to have to unload. And so they're taxiing around and they open the back of the plane. And I was sitting kind of up one of these seats here. And obviously there's more people towards the back of the plane than from where I'm at. The back of the plane opens and I'm watching, the row of people over here. Everyone's getting their bags ready or they're just kind of sitting there waiting to park. And I can see it from the person in the back of the plane working its way like a wave, an invisible wave up the plane. People will be, looking at, and then look up and just get this like real like this look of just disgust. And then like a fraction of a second later, the person next to him look up, go, ugh. And it kind of work its way down the plane. What's the deal? And then it's my turn to get hit by the invisible wave. This hot, humid, wet, like 60, 70 degree wall of humid air just punches you in the face. And it's like, oh, great. That's gross. And you're wearing your winter boots and your pants and your coat because they make you wear it on the plane. And so you feel stupid because now you're walking around New Zealand. It's 70 degrees and humid out, and you're wearing your Antarctic gear, sweating up a storm. So kind of my reintroduction to normal weather. The hot, humid, and coming back, it was going down. It's an experience, but I'm used to cold. Coming back, there's so much stuff you forget about while you're down there. Like, some of the big stuff for me was the weather, wind, walking around New Zealand. My 2 weeks I spent there goofing off before heading home for home. I had to get used to wind again. That didn't like hurt your face when it hit you. Like walking around, and be like, oh, this breeze is nice. It's not like painful. It's great. And the sound of traffic and sirens and people's dogs barking down the street or outside or loud cars going up and down the road. Just noises you forget about. Children, kids crying, weird stuff. The end. That was probably way too long and like we sped through some stuff. I apologize. I tried digging through this. Is like 150 photos. And most of it is like, I'm sure, boring stuff, but answer some questions along the way. And as time goes on, I might do more videos of my department here at home. Hopefully I'll go back to Antarctica, so hey, if I end up going back, if there's stuff you want to know about while I'm down there, I'd be open to doing that. Or I'll check the comments on this video once it's up, and I'll answer as things goes along. But I wanted to do this, share some stories, share some pictures, answer some more questions. But thanks for watching. Stop the thing, but yeah, hope that was not totally boring and painful.